We're gonna embrace our Rory Gilmore and try to enjoy the books that Rory Gilmore likes. And I'm gonna see if I can accomplish this because this is just so intimidating. Hi everyone, it's me. Welcome to today's video. It is time for me to stop procrastinating and finally get to reading some dang classics today. So if you guys have been following me for a while, you know that a while ago, a long time ago, I purchased a couple of classics to read, to give a try, and I have procrastinated actually reading those books until today. I have not read very many classics. I'm gonna be honest with you, I have not read very many. I've read Pride and Prejudice, but I just could not get myself to like Pride and Prejudice. It was just, I love the story. Okay, I watched the movie, but there was something about the writing style that I couldn't really get into. And now looking back, I feel like the book was written to be sort of like comedic and funny, and I was trying to read it as a serious book, and maybe that's why I didn't get along with it. But we are going to give classics a good second try today. And so I have two planned to read. We're gonna embrace our Rory Gilmore because it's that time of the year and I've been watching Gilmore Girls again. But we're gonna embrace our Rory Gilmore and try to enjoy the books that Rory Gilmore likes to read. There is this giant list of books that are either referenced in Gilmore Girls or you see Rory physically reading them, and I have two books that are on that list. The first one is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I feel like I do not need to introduce this book. I feel like everyone knows what this is. I have indeed watched the movie. I love the movie, I love the story, so I'm hoping I also love the book. Now, The Great Gatsby I don't think is directly ever mentioned by Rory in the show, but hold on, I have my receipts beside me. In season 3, episode 11, when her and Lorelai are going to that business school, Suki starts flirting or like accidentally gets asked out by that old friend of hers. Lorelai calls Suki this guy's Daisy. Great Gatsby is definitely mentioned. Rory has for sure read it. And so that's the first classic I'm going to read in this video. I feel like this one's a really good to start on because, as I mentioned, I do love the story. I'm already familiar with it, but it's also a very, very, very friendly length. This is not intimidating at all. It's only like 100 and something pages long, I think. I feel like it's just a good one to start on. But that's gonna be our warm-up this week. The big, intimidating classic I'm going to read is this really thick thing. This is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Now this is an 800 book, so we're diving into the deep end with this, but Rory loves this book. Hold on, I have the receipts. In season 1, episode 16, Rory makes Dean try this book out. He starts complaining about it to her because he's like, oh my gosh, this book is so long, like it's 800 pages long, why are you making me read this? And she's like, give it a fair chance, keep going. And so he promises to give Anna Karenina another chance, and that's what I'm gonna do today or this week. And I'm gonna see if I can accomplish this because this is just so intimidating. That's pretty much it. We're gonna try and embrace our inner Rory Gilmore this week, and I'm gonna start off with the nice friendly one. That's about it. Let's start reading. I finished The Great Gatsby in pretty much one sitting. I usually try and give you like more updates while reading a book in these reading vlogs, but I devoured this because it's only like 150 something pages long. Basically in one sitting. I think I moved from like chair to couch at one point, but I read this book all at once. I have mixed thoughts, okay? Very, very mixed thoughts. We'll start with the positives. I think the writing in this is absolutely beautiful. I don't think anyone can deny that F. Scott Fitzgerald is very good at his words. He is very good at stringing together a beautiful sentence and making these like beautiful, very memorable, quotable lines. The concept of the story and the overall structure of it is very good. Like, it wouldn't touch so many people's lives if it wasn't good, which is very impressive because at the same time, the story here is not very complex, which makes sense because it's a very short book, so you can't really like do much in 150 pages. But what he did do with the length of this book and the words that he had is it's really good. It's impressive. He's also managed to craft together these very interesting characters that you just feel like you really want to know more about every single one of them, so that's good. But we're gonna go into the negatives, okay? First of all, the pacing in this drove me absolutely mad. I feel like from scene to scene, I felt so disjointed, and like sometimes we would have these like month-long gaps between scenes, sometimes it would be like right after, but I found a lot of the time we would be in the middle of like a conversation and then all of a sudden, like very abruptly, we would switch to, I don't know, a couple weeks later, we're sitting in a room mid-conversation with someone else in a different place, and it felt really abrupt and disjointed to me, and maybe that's a stylized thing, but it was driving me crazy, like jumping from scene to scene from time to time like that. I also am honestly completely unsure if I would be so connected to the characters and the story if I hadn't watched the movie first. And this is something I feel like I will never know, because I will never get the experience of reading the book first and then watching the movie, because obviously I watched the movie already. It's like very deep ingrained in my head, and while I was reading this book, I was just like picturing the movie in my head, and I couldn't help myself. Every time we were in a scene, that particular part of the soundtrack was in my head, the imagery was in my head, like the cinematography from the movie, the specific shots. Every time Jay Gatsby spoke, I was just like hearing Leo's voice in my head, and like Carey Mulligan for Daisy and Tobey Maguire for Nick. Like I just couldn't get the movie out of my head, and so I don't know what I would have felt about this book if I hadn't watched the movie first. I feel like maybe I wouldn't have thought much about the romance between Daisy and Gatsby. I feel like the movie really romanticized their relationship and romanticized everything really, but I don't know if I would have enjoyed the romance as much. My memory card is running out of space. I'm gonna change it, one sec. Okay, I'm back. What was I talking about? I was feeling the emotions, the feelings, the yearning, all of the romance through the screen while I was reading the book, because I was just picturing Leo and Daisy, but I don't know if I would have gotten that through the book. Like I was actually very surprised at how unromantic the book Great Gatsby was, because I'm so used to it being like portrayed and like viewed as such a romantic story, and it wasn't romantic. Like it wasn't romantic at all. And that's not like a pro or a con, because obviously we can enjoy books without romance, but it's just an observation. So yeah, I don't know if I would have connected to it as much as I did if I hadn't watched the movie first. That's my overall opinion. But it's short, it's easy to read. I feel like it is a really good warm-up to like a classic if you're trying to get into classics, but I don't know if I absolutely loved it. But I did like it more than Pride and Prejudice, which is good. So we're on our way to loving classics. We are well on our way. That means it's time to pick up this now, which is like, it's so intimidating, but I have high hopes for this one, because I feel like this one, I don't know, is going to be a lot more intense of a read. I've never read Leo Tolstoy before, so I don't know if I'm gonna vibe with the writing style, but it's Anna Karenina. Like I feel like I have to like this. So if you don't know what the story of Anna Karenina is, I think in a nutshell, we're set in Russia. We follow our FMC, Anna Karenina, who is very unhappy in her marriage, and she meets this young bachelor and risks everything to be in this affair with this young bachelor. That's the story in a nutshell, but there's 800 pages, so there's obviously much more than that. This is going to be an experience reading this, so let's do it. I am exactly 70 pages in, and so far I have to say I am really loving this. I'm gonna compare a lot of things I feel like to The Great Gatsby naturally, because that's the last book I read and that's the most recent classic I've read. I just find that overall this is flowing so much better for me, like in all ways. So first of all, the writing I feel like is just, yeah, it's just like flowing better. It's more smooth. The transitions between scene to scene make a lot more sense and feel more natural and genuine, and like it is a lot easier to follow. Even though this book is so long, I feel like I am going to just like, yeah, I'm gonna understand what's going on a lot better, which is funny because it's at points it's very obvious that this is translated, and most of the translation is pretty good I feel like, but there are definitely times where like I'll see a word and I'll be like, I feel like that doesn't quite make sense. Like, it feels a bit clunky in there, and it's definitely due to, like, you know, sometimes when you're translating things, like, some words in different languages don't have like a direct English translation. So some of the translation, I feel like the words are, yeah, a little bit clunky, a little funky, something like weird happened along the way, but it's not a big deal. Like, it somehow it makes the text, like the story, feel more genuine, that it feels like not quite English. I feel like I'm already like so much more invested in these characters. I care for them a lot more. I'm like deeply invested in what happens to them. There are certain characters that I'm like so rooting for. I'm like, please have a happy ending. And then there are other characters where I'm like, you're a piece of dirt, like I don't like you. But I just feel like everything feels a lot more fleshed out, which also makes sense because this is an 800-page book. So if things were not well fleshed out, there would be a big problem there. On one hand, I am comparing it to The Great Gatsby, but on the other hand, maybe that's unfair because The Great Gatsby, like, essentially is a novella. Like, it's 150 pages long. It's a novella, and you can't compare an 800-page book to a 150-page book. But yeah, I am so far enjoying my Leo Tolstoy experience. Wow, it is such like a cozy rainy day today. I feel like the weather today is like the perfect weather to read a classic. It's classic vibes today, which is good. Like, I knew that November would be like very classics vibe, and that's why I chose this month to do this video. I am a little bit further in Anna Karenina. I'm on page 144. So we're nibbling away at it. We're not even close to like halfway even, but we're nibbling. Things are like starting to get like messy a little bit, but in a good way. There's a lot of like different affairs happening. The plot's really interesting. I think the characters, there are still certain characters that I'm rooting for, and I'm like when things are happening to them, I'm like, why? There's one thing I noticed though that is throwing me off just a little bit in terms of the writing style in this book. I feel like quotation marks are being used in a very confusing way in here. It's funny because I have a Sally Rooney book here in front of me, and I feel like these writing styles are complete opposites, because where Sally Rooney does not use quotation marks at all, Leo Tolstoy uses too many quotation marks. I don't know, maybe I'm just a normie, but I feel like whenever I read quotation marks, whenever I see them, that indicates to me that whatever's in between those quotation marks is dialogue, right? Like, that's not a weird thing to think. I'm noticing that Leo Tolstoy in this uses quotation marks for thoughts as well. Like, people's inner reactions and thoughts are framed within quotation marks, so you really have to pay attention to like what's around it, like the context, and use that to figure out if that quote was actually said out loud or if it was just an inner thought from a character. That's a little confusing, and I'm finding myself needing to like go back and like reread parts because I'm like, wait, that was weird. Did this person say that aloud or not? So that's just one thing that's throwing me off a little bit, but overall, I think I'm still really liking Anna Karenina. So we're gonna keep reading. Again, today's like the coziest rainy day, so just like perfect vibes for this. Why do I love Levin so much? Am I supposed to love Levin this much? Hate Anna, hate Count Vronsky. Kitty's like just annoying, but Levin? I love Levin. Guys, if you told me a year ago or even a month ago, if you told me that devouring classics would be on my 2024 bingo card, I would not have believed you. I would have laughed in your face. But how did I finish this book? When did I start it? I started it on Saturday. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. How did I read this book in 4 days? Hold on, I need to like actually check when my start date was. Yeah, I read The Great Gatsby on Friday, and then I started this book on Saturday. How did I read an 800-page book classic in 4 days? That's an average of 200 pages a day. I don't know what happened, guys. I was fully expecting to like take my time with this book, maybe like take a full week or 2 weeks to get through it, but there was something really addictive about it. Like, I wanted to know what would happen to the characters, and so I just kind of flew through it. Needless to say, I definitely really enjoyed this book. I think the characters were all just like so well done. They were all so complex. I feel like I know the inner workings of all the characters' minds, like to their core. Like I feel like I know their deepest, darkest secrets. This was great. Like, yeah, it's about love, it's about affairs, it's about like scandal and stuff, but it also just takes like a really good look at what marriage was like then, what it was like to be a man or a woman in society in that day. It was about farming, politics, and religion, and there was just like so much in here. I think though that this book should have been called Levin because I don't know if you've gotten that impression by me just like loving Levin throughout this entire reading process, but there are basically like two main characters in this, and you would expect Anna Karenina to shine because she's literally the title of this book. But for me, I was so much more invested in Levin and his character growth and the journey he was going on. I just feel like he was on a much more interesting journey, where like Anna Karenina, I guess her journey was interesting. Like she went through a big roller coaster, but her as a character, I was just really annoyed at for a lot of the book. So I honestly really disliked her. But Levin, there's something about Levin. Like he has his weaknesses, obviously, but I feel like he was just trying to do his best. Like he was just a little puppy dog who wanted to get married and farm and like better himself. I don't know. Am I supposed to love Levin this much? I really don't know. But yeah, where this book is like so long, I feel like it is really long because you get so much into the heads of these characters. Like a lot of the writing, a lot of the words are just dedicated to being in these characters' heads, and you're literally reading their inner dialogue. There were definitely parts in it where it was like, this is so long, especially at the end of it. I feel like a lot of that inner monologue at the end, and it was Levin's inner monologue, and I love Levin, but I feel like even that I was like, okay, this is a bit much. But overall, such a good experience reading this, and I would never have thought, like, you guys know, like, I'm not a classics girl, but maybe I am a classics girl now because I really enjoyed this. Will I be diving into a classic like anytime soon again? Probably not. I feel like I need to take a break in between these sorts of reads, but truly enjoyed the experience. Feel like I learned a lot, and it honestly feels a little bit weird to rate this book because I feel like this book is like bigger than me. Like who am I? Who am I to put a star rating on this? But I think overall from my impression, I would say I'm sitting at a 4-star for Anna Karenina. I feel like it was 4.5 until the last 100 pages, and then the last 100 pages I was like, okay, we could have maybe cut down a little bit. But yeah, it was really good. Again, some of the translation feels a little bit clunky. For example, the word interview was used instead of conversation. Excited was used instead of frustrated or angry or worked up. So there were like a few things that I was like, ooh, that translation's not like exactly right. But again, I kind of feel like it made the whole experience feel more authentic. On one last note, I kind of want to run through like the main characters in this and just like give you my opinion on them for some reason. I'm not going to go through like specific plot points in case you have not read this or if you're not familiar with the story of Anna Karenina. Let's go through the characters. So Anna Karenina, obviously disliked, highly disliked. I think like basically 99% of the book, I was like, I do not like this woman. Levin, absolutely loved. He's a little puppy dog. He is the main character. Vronsky, no, didn't like him. No. Karenina I actually surprisingly liked. Like, I feel like he didn't give much, but like what he did give, I was like, I just feel really bad for this man. He was just also trying to do his best in the situation he was in. Kitty, I kind of went through a roller coaster with. So at the beginning, I liked Kitty, and then I just started getting annoyed at her, and then by the end, I think I liked her again. Oblonsky, obviously, I don't like him just because of, you know, principle. Dolly, I feel like I'm just like neutral on. I have no strong feelings towards Dolly. There it is. I think I'm gonna leave you guys here for now. That is 2 classics good to go off my list. Again, Great Gatsby I thought was just like okay, but it was a good intro, and then Anna Karenina is just, honestly, it's a masterpiece. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked spending a week with me reading classics and living out my Rory Gilmore dream. I see what Rory sees now. But if you did like this video, please leave me a like and a comment. If you don't know what to comment down below, let me know what your favorite classic is. If you like me, subscribe, do that bell thing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!